Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Paul Palmer, Dr. Paul Palmer. I am just going to give you a few minutes to join. I always like to start and make sure people, because I know the notifications go out on LinkedIn, and sometimes it takes people a few minutes to actually get onto it from when the notification comes up. Today we're going to talk about quality culture and compliance. Just to give you a little bit of background about me, I've been in pharmaceutical manufacturing and supply for 4 decades now. I started in microbiology, went into QC, quality control, as a supervisor, then QA manager. Was based in the manufacturing environment. Enjoyed actually the experience of being in the middle of everything. And I've continued to do that at every opportunity. For example, when I became a QP in 2004, and then not long after became head of quality. And as head of quality, I was involved in a site move. We moved from a small site to a significantly bigger site. Went from about, I think it was a team of about 15, 20, up to 43 just in production, on 2 shifts, plus the admin staff, the sales maps and everything. But I was there doing the actual move. I was identifying how we would actually design the layout, and I put myself in the middle. Because I wanted to be there with the team. I wanted to see what was going on, but also, more importantly for me, I wanted to be available if there's a question. And for me, that's what leadership is about. It's about being there, available to solve the problems. Now, of course, you don't want to always be solving every single problem. You don't want somebody in front of you and asking every question when they should have been trained in it, but just when there's an issue. So we got up to about 100. I think the highest was 106 batches in a day across the team. It was challenging, of course. But actually, the thing that was challenging most was space. It wasn't the people. The team that I'd built over the previous year and a half could cope with it. But the issue that we had was space and flow, because the batches all came into one specific area, and we had to take our samples to do our review, to finalize and release fast enough so that the space didn't get overfull. So I would say normally on a normal day, we were probably doing 40 to 60. So managing to do 106 was a massive achievement, and we had additional support from production, helping us in the quality team to get things processed. And because they had a large volume of batches that needed to go out that specific day, and they were all quite small batches to different locations. That was part of the problem. It was broken down into a lot of small chunks rather than big chunks. It's much easier when you do I remember the first time when I was doing QC, it was like 10 pallets, one batch for 1 week, and doing one release. It was quite easy when you're doing that. When you're doing 100 in a day, it can be quite challenging. Anyway, we've had 4 minutes now, so you should have had enough time to join. So we're going to talk today about quality culture versus compliance. Now, culture impacts compliance. There's no way you can avoid it. And the regulators are actually thinking more about culture than they ever did before, because they understand that the leadership are the ones that are going to actually deliver on the compliance aspects on an ongoing basis, not just on the day when the auditor's there. Passing an audit for a day when you've got everything fixed and everything focused on just for that 6-8 hours, and you've probably spent 2 weeks preparing for it, isn't the same as having sustainable excellence in manufacturing in a pharmaceutical organization. if you want to have it sustainable, you have to build culture, not just SOPs. Culture is about doing the right thing, even though nobody's looking. Doing that extra second check because you know it's the right thing to do, because it's best. It's what's been ingrained into the team, and as the manager, as the supervisor, knowing that when there is a deviation, they're going to raise the form, they're going to fill it in, and they're going to put all the details in that you need to be able to address it straight away. But when there's an SOP there, that's the way that they'll do it. I do remember, again, back when I was a long time ago, there was an issue with one of the manufacturing lines that the overnight run, there was a lot of seal integrity failures. I don't remember how we found out, but we did find out. The issue was that overnight they were accelerating, they were speeding it up. So rather than having the process run at the correct speed, they wanted an extra break, so they speeded it up, and it failed. Ended up in the bin. That's not the right culture to give you compliance. But where's the hidden gap in your organization? What's the bit that's missing? What most companies think they're compliant. They think, right, we've got all these records. But look at the picture on the screen on the left. What can you see? Big hole in the wall. Looks like it could be rust, doesn't it? What could that be caused by? Well, it's maintenance. Companies often get repeat observations, and audits reveal familiar findings. Quality teams are reactive, not active. What do I mean by that? Well, it's control versus quality assurance, really. So quality control is what you do after the event you just checked. What you do in advance is assure. So all the planned and systematic activities that you put in place in advance to make sure that when you do the job, it's going to be right. Now, simple question. Ask yourself, if you were quality team, right? The example I gave, night shift. If the quality team's not there, oversight, is your process running correctly? Or is it to the minimum compliance, the minimum expectation to get it through? So that when you get to the morning, they think it's really going to be okay, but maybe not. Or have we got a quality culture? Maybe it's not just quality. Maybe it's a patient-oriented culture that thinks about the impact of what we're doing and how it will affect the patient. Because if you're doing something every day and you know whatever you give, whatever results you get, it's going to affect the patient, shouldn't you be doing the right thing every single time to get it right so that the patient will have the results that they need, that they will be treated correctly, that the product will have the right quality, the right efficacy, the right strength, the right safety? It's going to do what it's supposed to do. Because if it's not, what's the point? Why are we doing it? So that's what it's about. It's about having a culture of understanding that we're doing the right thing every single day. So compliance, rules-based, conforming to regulations, procedures, standards, letter of the law, not the intent. Reactive, it's always reactive. It's quite frustrating, to be honest, sometimes. Behavior shaped by what's next, by audits, by inspections, by next person to check it, rather than thinking, this is the right thing. They're just doing what they're told. Gives you a fragile system that under scrutiny will often fail when somebody doesn't give them the right information, or the person that they normally ask is not there and they just don't know. But they should know. So quality culture is about working together. It's about having the shared values. It's about thinking, yes, quality is what we're doing today. We're doing the right quality every level, all the way from the top, all the way to the bottom. I remember, was it the CEO or was the MD? I think it was the MD. And he used to come down to see us. Good morning. He used to go to the production line. He was an engineer. He was an engineering background. So he understood what was going on in the manufacturing lines. He used to go talk to the operators. And when he had the meeting with the management team, he knew what was going well and what wasn't going well. And the company performance excelled because the culture was driven right from the top, right to the bottom, to give the right quality of product for the patient. He had a proactive mindset. Issues on the lines were prevented. We often anticipated when we were doing the validations what could go wrong. I remember once I was telling somebody that was coming in to do a new test for a new formulation. And because I'd tested them, I don't know, for the last 5 years, I could tell him that he had a certain part of the formulation wasn't going to work. I was being proactive. Unfortunately, he still needed to generate the evidence, but I was proven correct. So we want to anticipate and prevent things that go wrong. So what else could we think about? Well, don't drop a plate. Make sure you understand aseptic technique. If you're not quite sure before you go and do something, check the instructions. Just make sure that one last time. Make sure you design your records that give the prompts. Make sure that the people know you're expecting them to look after the patient. Make sure they know to come and talk to you if there's something that's going wrong. I remember being called over to a machine once. He said, "This isn't quite going right. Are we okay to use it?" And I got them to do all the checks. I was in quality control, but I was often the one that told them they had to reject it when it didn't go right. So we did some extra testing for them. We made sure that what they were doing was right. And they had to do a few more adjustments. But that week, we got a batch that passed. They were proactive at the beginning, not leaving the thing that they thought wasn't quite right to the end. Because they knew the outcome. If it gets rejected, what's the point? They're wasting their time, aren't they? They weren't just documenting it at the end. They were proactive, coming out to us and saying, what can we do? And we got the engineers in to support as well. Universal ownership. Everyone owns the quality of the product because we want the right quality to go to the patient. QA works with you rather than just being the one that says yes and no. It's much better that way. With the culture that you work together, it's a much more, I want to say amenable. Working together, for me, the biggest difference is when you're battling against each other all the time, you've got a lot of stress. But when you work together and you've got a culture where everybody's bound together with the same goals, with the same intention, with the same focus on the customer, on the patient, then it's much less stressful. And you know that you're not just going to release something. They know that when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, they're going to release the product because proactively you've done it right. And everyone's got together and owns the right quality, the right performance with the patient-led decisions. The patient impacts everything. You want to have a sterile product that goes out. You want to have a product that's going to cure. It needs to be the way it's intended. And the best way to do that is a strong culture with a patient focus. We've got two different worlds. Compliance, externally driven, triggered by audits, inspections, can fail under pressure. That's why I come in and help. But developing and engaging quality culture, it's not just from external, it's internal, it's inside the people, inside the individuals, it's continuous, it's strong under pressure. Even if there's no audits there, you know the right thing. We didn't need the audits, testers. We knew that the product was going to go out right and that we're not going to get any complaints, which is another side effect, another really positive one, because you improve your reputation improves. Often I find that the SOPs are used as, I like to think of the Fordist approach. When Ford introduced the factory approach, you got all the people in their little boxes, and all they could do was that little bit. So an SOP is like putting somebody in a box, and all they can do is that bit, and they don't know what's coming before, and they don't know what's coming afterwards. If that's how you keep them on their own, just doing their little bit, they just follow it mechanically and they don't understand. Deviations will happen because they're not linking to the next process. They're not thinking about the patient, and they just end up being routine. CAPAs are there, they should be there to improve. But unfortunately, in this situation, they're often used just as a closure to finish it off. And fear hides the problems. Oh no, we've done it again. We better not tell them. It's not the way to be. You want your team to be open and honest and to know what's coming next. A weak culture, well, we've always done it like that. It's a long time since I've heard that. Maybe it's because I don't listen to it. See, resistance to change is common, but it's not institutional knowledge. It's just the way that you were told. Late deviation reporting is really common, unfortunately. And the problem is, if it's not reported at the time, often it's too late to gather the information you need to make that improvement. So it happens again. Data integrity. Data integrity can be a killer for a company. Recent audits from the FDA have actually resulted in companies being banned from export to the US for failures in data integrity. But pressure to produce can result in shortcuts. And that's what the problem was. The senior management were telling them what to do. They just got on with it. And then they did some shortcuts. And as a result, there's no products on the market at all. QA shouldn't be the police. It should be the partners to work with. So with a strong culture, you're happy to report what's going on. You're confident you know that you're doing the right thing. Transparency has to be rewarded. Has to be rewarded. Now, this is difficult. It can be difficult, especially if you're used to the compliance approach. Because they'll bring something to you and you'll say, well, you need to do this. But you can't do that. You have to think about it and think, well, why is it they're bringing that to me rather than knowing how to resolve it themselves? Because we've given them the SOPs, we've given them the training already. So what's the issue? What's going wrong? We need to look deeper. Maybe it's a near miss or an error that's come up early, and that actually it's a learning opportunity. Root cause analysis, investigations beyond immediate event, uncovering systemic drivers, acting on them. It's really important that you actually get to the end of it so that you can have a culture of continuous improvement. Things will still go wrong. Maybe it's a supplier, maybe it's equipment failing, maybe it's somebody's, I don't know, maybe they didn't get the full training they were supposed to get. But if you have visible leadership committed to enhancing the culture, to improving the product, to delivering the right product, the right time to the patient for the patient's benefit. And they model it throughout the day with their actions, the way that they make decisions, the priorities they set, the behaviors, not being critical of the person that highlights the issue that can actually deliver an improvement. Then you're in luck, because you've got somebody that will help you achieve and that's going to bring a strong culture. Quality needs to be embedded across the organization, cross-functional ownership, not just in Q8. And I do believe that that we should have a different name for the team, because I believe people get confused. When I was back in Smith & Nephew around 1996, I think, we implemented something called process control. Now, it was a team, a process control team. And they were there as the line side QC. But we changed the name to change the perception. Because prior to that, the line side team had always been the ones doing the in-process checks. But we were thinking about it, and there was no reason why anybody couldn't do the in-process checks, so long as you've got an independent verification. And over time, the process control team were incorporated into manufacture. And we improved performance. But what was more important, we actually improved the quality of the product for the patient, because the team worked more together. Cross-functional ownership embedded in manufacturing, supply chain, clinical, commercial makes a massive difference. And that cultural change will impact your patient positively. But the enabler is the leadership. The leadership has to have model behavior, visibly uphold the standards, not just words. They can't tell everybody in the town hall and then behind the doors fire the people that come and raise the problems. They need to reward transparency. Culture always starts at the top, and transparency has to recognize those who surface problem, not just the results. Challenging poor practice. Leadership sets the standards. The rewards, challenges, and what it tolerates. Need to address non-compliance, whether that's related specifically or behavior, and align goals with what's needed for the product, for the patient, the right quality, safety, and efficacy to deliver the right level of performance, and enhance the culture with their own leadership role. So to move from compliance to culture, you need to train for understanding. Use the deviations to learn, but measure behaviors. Behavioral monitoring is harder. I actually quite like doing the covert observation. I did that during my master's back in '93. And honestly, I continued. I still do it now. Building psychological safety, that's about the way that you treat the team. That you give them the opportunity to come and talk to you. Each step builds on the last, creating a reinforcing system, and quality becomes self-sustaining, not inspection-driven. Start with why. Measure what matters. Make safety psychological. Make sure people know they can come forward, but they won't do it. They won't do it without being encouraged, without putting them into a team environment where everybody gets to speak. And then, when everybody's speaking, you think, quite like what they were saying. Then you realize that they're actually going to help you improve. And the performance of the department, the whole company improves together. That's where you want to be with that culture improvement. So that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed today's live. If you do have any questions, please do go ahead, put them in the comments. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to see them today, so I haven't responded. But I will respond later. I'll come and when it takes a bit of time for the system to process and load it so that it's visible for people later. So what I'll do is I'll come back and I'll check for additional comments later, as well as answering any that I see now. When I log off the live stream. So I do hope you found it useful. My name is Paul Palmer. I'm a pharmaceutical consultant, yes. I do have a team that I work with. The type of activities we can do for you would be auditing, helping with cultural change, moving from compliance to patient focused, rectifying adverse on regulatory authorities, helping you with the quality system, with the ways of working, which is not quite the same thing. So the quality system is the way you document it, but sometimes it's actually the way of working, the way that you move the paperwork around, the way that you interact with different things that actually makes a bigger difference. So we can help with that as well. Training, of course, we do that all the time. Whether that's custom training or something that you would do on a routine basis every day, we can still help to embed it more within the team. If it's something new that you're struggling with or something that you've had an audit and somebody said you need to get more understanding of a certain topic, we can do that as well on a custom basis or with something off the shelf. Of course, if it's custom, it's a little bit more expensive. So that's it for me for today. I'm Paul Palmer, the Academy of Pharmaceutical Excellence, as well as my, what do you call it? The commercial entity, Paul R. Palmer Limited. And you can see my website there on the screen. I think we've got it www, but I think it diverts to https://, but it's a bit of a mouthful to say, isn't it? And you can see my email there. The other thing you can do is you can find me on LinkedIn, Paul R. Palmer. It does have the picture. The picture that you can see on the screen is actually the one that's on my LinkedIn, so it's quite easy to find. Okay, I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you, and I hope you did enjoy today's session.